Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajakacharya Austatera Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajakacharya Austatera Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada Ki Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnavindi Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Chikoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Sri Sri Radha Radhanath Ki Gaura Hari Ki Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. So now we will be having a little class. Hurry and come up front before the temple room fills up. Sorry you won't be having such an elevated class like you might get tomorrow with Brihad Bhagavat Swami or with Urmila here. We all repeat and do the best we can. You see there's a smaller crowd today. So we're going to be giving a special talk for the disappearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, Prabhupada's beloved guru, and we're going to accent some special points about his life and about his disappearance and some of the instructions that he wanted to happen and the things that he wrote in the will before his disappearance. But we're not doing that today. We're doing that tomorrow at 11:30. It will be in the same temple room and on the same online channel at 11:30. So today we will be telling a little story about Maharaj Prithu. Instead of making one up, we will go to the Srimad Bhagavatam and read something that's there. How about we try chapter 21? Does that sound good? Would that be better than reading from the 13th canto? Okay. So which verse do we do repeatedly? We will be reading 21, text 16 to 20. Do we repeatedly do 16? Which one? The last one, okay. Is it the last one or the last one? They pronounce English words differently than I pronounce them. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. So text 16, I will just read these, and we will read text 20 repeatedly. This is chapter 21 of the 4th canto, entitled Instructions by Maharaj Prithu. Vyudavaksha Prihat Tronir Vali Valgu Dalo Daraha Avartanabir Ojasvi Kan Norur Udgrapat Vida broad, Yaksha chest, Brihad Shroni thick waist, Vali wrinkles, Valgu very beautiful, Dala like the leaf of a banyan tree, Udara abdomen, Avarta coiled, Nabi navel, Ojasvi lustrous, Kanka golden, Uru thighs, Udagra pat arched instep. Translation: the chest of Maharaj Prithu was very broad, his waist was very thick, and his abdomen wrinkled by lines of skin, resembling in construction a leaf of a banyan tree. His navel was coiled and deep. His thighs were of a golden hue, and his instep was arched. Do we see many people like this? Text 17. Shukshma vakrita snigdha murdavaja kambu kandaraha mahadane dukalagriye paridya yopyacha. Shukshma, very fine. Vakra, curly. Asita, black. Snigdha, slick. Murdajava, hair on the head. Kambu, like a conch. Kandara, neck. Mahadare, very valuable. Dukala agre, dressed with a dhoti. Parija, on the upper portion of the body. Upaya, placed like a sacred thread. Ja, also. Translation: the black and slick hair on his head was very fine and curly, and his neck, like a conch shell, was decorated with auspicious lines. He wore a very valuable dhoti, and there was a nice wrapper on the upper part of his body. Does that mean it was a silk dhoti, or it had jari in it, or how valuable was the dhoti? Okay, text 18. Vyanjita Sheshakatra Shrir Niyame Nyasta Bhushanaha Krishna Jina Dara Srimam Kusapani Krito Chitaha. Vyanjita, indicating, Asesha, innumerable, Gatra, bodily, Shri, beauty, Niyame, regulated, Nyasta, given up, Bhusanaha, garments, Krishna, black, Agna, skin, Dadaha, putting on, Sriman, beautiful, Kushapani, having, Kusa, grass on the fingers, Krita, performed, Uchita, as it is required. Translation: as Maharaj Prithu was being initiated to perform the sacrifice, he had to leave aside his valuable dress, and therefore his natural bodily beauty was visible. It was very pleasing to see him put on a black deerskin and wear a ring of kusa grass on his finger, for this increased the natural beauty of his body. It appears that Maharaj Prithu observed all the regulative principles before he performed the sacrifice. You have to get that right. He performed the regulative principles, and it was regulated. We'll talk about the difference of those later. Text 19. Shir Shirashnigda Tarakshaha Samakshata Samantataha Ujivan Idam Urvishaha Sada Samharsha Yan Eva. Sirisha drew, Snigda wet. Tara stars, Aksha eyes, Samikshata glanced over, Samantaha all around. Uchivan began to speak, Idam this, Orvishaha highly elevated, Sadaha among the members of the assembly, Samharshayan enhancing their pleasure, Eva like. Translation, just to encourage the members of the assembly. Remember that part, that will be on the test I ask you at the end. And to enhance their pleasure, King Prithu glanced over them with his eyes that seemed like stars in a sky wet with dew. He then spoke to them in a great voice. Shall we hear about that? This one we will say repeatedly. I'll start with each word and then we will do the lines. Charu, Chitrapadam, Slakshnam, Mrishtam, Gudam, Aviklavam, Sarvesham, Upakarartham, Tada, Anuvadan, Eva, Charuchitrapadam Slakshnam, Mrishtam Gudam, Aviklavam, Sarvesham Upakar Artham, Tada Anuvadan Eva, Charu Chitra Padam Slakshnam, Mrishtam Kudam Aviklavam, Sarvesham Upakar Artham, Tada Anuvadan Eva, Charu Chitra Padam Slakshnam, Mrishtam Gudam Aviklavam, Sarvesham Upakar Artham, Tada Anuvadan Eva. Repeat. Any men? No? All right. So, Charu means beautiful. Chitrapadam, flowery. Slakshdam, very clear. Mrishtam, very great. Gudam, meaningful. Aviklavam, without any doubt. Sarvasham, for all. Upakara, artham, just to benefit them. Tada, at that time. Anuvadan, just to repeat. Eva, like. Translation. Maharaj Prithu's speech was very beautiful, full of metaphorical language, clearly understandable and very pleasing to hear. His words were all grave and certain. Understandable and certain, huh? It appears that when he spoke, he expressed his personal realization of the absolute truth in order to benefit all who were present. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Prithu was beautiful in his external bodily features, and his speech was also very glorious in all respects. His words, which were nicely composed in highly metaphorical ornamental language, were pleasing to hear and were not only mellow but were also clearly understandable and without any doubt or ambiguity. Okay, Om Gyanatam Ranya Sagana Gana Salakaya Chaksur Militan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manu Wisdam Stapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupakadam Mayam Tatati Swapadantikam Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nirvisesha Shunivati Pastajata Satarni. So what he said here was very pleasing. And they were grave and certain. And he expressed his personal realization of the absolute truth in order to benefit all who were present. It reminds us of the ideas of the austerity of speech. The austerity of speech. You know, the Rotary Club uses this as their motto. They don't say spiritual knowledge, but they say true knowledge. And it says that that speech should be truthful, it should be pleasing, it should be beneficial, not just to me in total. It should be not agitating to others, and it should be based on spiritual knowledge. So we find this is the filter we should use before we start speaking. And if anybody's ever been on Facebook, you may notice that not everyone follows that. And when Urmila was talking about these, which one would be the most important? Beneficial. Because I can tell you the truth about plumbing. But if you're not going to do any plumbing, would that be beneficial to you? It might be true. You might be so excited to hear about pipes and faucets. It might be pleasing, and it might not agitate you. Probably isn't based on spiritual knowledge, but is it a benefit to you? Just like when the doctor, Prabhupada says, if you're sick, you go in the pharmacy and the medicine's there. So you just pick any pill because they're all medicine, correct? Because they all have some benefit, right? So you just picked any pill? No, first you have to find out what your position is. So before we can find out what's beneficial for people, we have to find out what their needs are. It's just like they got it when I was doing a home program a couple of days ago. I said, if I ask you directions on how to get to this house, I call you up, what's the first thing you need to know? What? Not their address, but what if they're going to tell me how to get there, what's the first thing they need to know? Where I am, yes. Because if you say, well, you go from the Sri Sri Radharanath temple, and you go around, and you get on the Higginson's Highway, and you hit the N2, and you go north. I said, but I'm in Laguna Beach, California. I'm not close to the Higginson Highway. I don't think it goes east and west, but not that far west, right? Right? It stops somewhere before Laguna Beach, probably before it hits the border. So we have to be clear on exactly what it is that's going on. We have to understand from people where they're at before we just give out directions. I remember there was one my mother showed me. It was in the 60s, I think, the New Yorker cartoon where the two people are hearing impaired and they're talking, and a person asks a question, "What do you think about this?" And she said, "Oh, probably on the train on Thursday." So without understanding what it is they're saying, if we just give answers, it won't be beneficial. So quite often with people, we don't say something until we find out what is beneficial. Just like the doctor does. He finds out what the symptoms are. He finds out what they may need. And so here we see that Maharaj Pritha was not only doing the beneficial part, but the speech was beautiful and it was pleasing to hear. He said it in such a way that they could understand. And it was grave and certain. It has to be understandable because a little bit different. Just like here, certain words mean different things here than they would in America. It's like when you say must, in America we say, should I do this? Must means like someone says, you must give me your money, I'll kill you. It's like the most imperative thing you say. So when people say, must I serve you some yogurt? It's like you must do this or I'll kill you. That's how it is there. It means something completely different. It's funny, we sing the song to the spiritual master, Sri Guru Charana Padma. Well, in the 70s, one American devotee was singing Sri Gauro Charana, and Charana means 25 pice, or a quarter of a rupee. And Gauro is a cow. So you're saying cows, 25 pice, cows, a quarter of a rupee, 4 cows for a rupee. So he said, you better have him sing that correctly or people are going to be looking for these cows that you can get for a rupee. So we have to be very clear that what we're saying is understandable. It's just like a person says, how do you feel that not taking intoxication? Say, oh, I feel much better. Say, oh, you feel like you're much better than I am? That isn't what you meant, but the way they interpret it may be something different. So we have to make sure that the idea is clear, that they get what they're saying. That's why Tukaram in Laguna Beach, he says, let's do a recap here and go back over what we've discussed already to make sure it's clear. You see that Krishna does that. He'll give a concept. They call it like a helix. It moves forward, but it keeps going around. So he'll move forward, but he'll repeat some of the same context so that you get it, right? Just like some of the people miss it when they say, well, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you can do what you like, and you have a right to perform your duty. But he says to do what you like. First, he says, deliberate fully. And before he says you have a right to perform your duty, he says, but you don't have a right to be attached to the result. The results are me. So if we're going to give a clear understanding to others, what do we have to have ourselves? A clear, same thing, right? If I'm going to tell you how to play cricket, what's the problem? What's that? I know something about cricket. I'll give you my lecture about cricket now. It's a sport. There's 11 players. They have a bat, and they hit it. Is it through the wicket, or do they try to hit it? Don't ask me what a wicket looks like. I couldn't identify it. If you put 3 things out and tell me to ask which one is a wicket, I wouldn't be able to. Do they hit the wicket, or it goes through the wicket? They hit the wicket. Okay. So now I know one more thing about cricket. But does that qualify me as a teacher? What if we put a uniform on it with like a number? Like I think the best player in India was Sachin Tendulkar. Does anybody know what his number was? So if I have a uniform with his number on it, am I automatically a great player? I'll stand out in the field looking like I know what I'm doing, and then I'll hit the ball towards the wicket, but I don't know what the wicket is or where it is. So we have to have a clear understanding ourselves. And we have to always be willing to realize that the Krishna conscious knowledge is like an ocean without shores. It's like some people that tell him, oh, Bhagavad Gita, I know that already. I said, oh, when did you memorize it? Bhaktisiddhanta didn't memorize it till he was 7. So did they memorize it? Who's memorized it here? You can't do the whole thing? So, there's always more knowledge. Or do you know everything about Krishna? No, we don't know it. So there's always something more. So Maharaj Prithu is giving this clear understanding, because there's so many things that we can get wrong that we have to make sure that we're giving the idea clearly and that it's understandable without the doubt. But do we ever create a doubt? Sometimes we do when we're talking. It's like the Greeks say, a beg a question. We say, just like with Arjuna is talking to Krishna, he's creating a doubt. Should I not fight this battle? Isn't this true? Isn't it true that we should have compassion? And how am I going to do this? It makes you wonder, well, what is the truth? What is the truth? So sometimes it's better to, instead of just give the people the answer, to say, what is the goal of life? Is it to enjoy happiness in the mode of ignorance, in the mode of passion? Do we just perform our duty? Lord Chaitanya did this with Ramananda Roy. He didn't just give the answer. He would say one thing, and Lord Chaitanya says, but that's not enough. You should go farther. So sometimes when we're giving something, the Greeks call it begging the question. We put something out, when you're reading that, you're going, well, what is the highest thing? If you just say, well, the highest thing is devotional service in Madhurya Leela. If you say it, but if you make people wonder, what is the answer? What is the answer? Because quite often it's like in algebra. If you're taking the algebra test, if I give you the answer to the question, will that help? It doesn't, because what you have to show is the steps you take to get to the answer. Okay, I know it's pure love of God, but it's the steps you take to get to pure love of God that are important, more than just knowing the concept. Just knowing the concept and repeating it won't help. Once on Laguna Beach, the Tukaram would do this. He said, what's the answer? And the one girl would go, Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, which means simultaneously one and yet different. And then she goes, Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. He says, you can't play the Achintya Veda Veda Tattva card every time. It doesn't work in each circumstance. So we have to understand ourselves and give that understanding to others. Because we have to understand the same thing may mean something different. And we have to be clear to people. Just like with Krishna, if we're unclear with what we want, it's going to be difficult to get it, right? If you're unsure where you're going, it's going to be hard to get there, isn't it? Like I tell people, if you're going to do something, you got to make a choice. Am I going to go forward with this or am I not? Because if you think I'm going to do this, and then tomorrow I'm not going to do this, then you're going to do it. It's funny, like I said to Jai Sachinandan, should I just not show up for the class and hope someone else does it? He goes, oh no, don't do that. Unfortunately, I don't think that way, because the yatra here would have trouble. When the Swami left, if I thought, well, this is too much for just a brahmachari assistant, what if I just leave? And then there would be a big debt here, and there would be, then the Swami had left, and the brahmachari people wouldn't want to come because there was difficulties here. That white people were unsafe from Africans because the government would just go out and shoot people, and we were even more unsafe from the white government because it was illegal to mix with different races. Even the fact that you would say that we're not black, white, or Indian, they said, well, your philosophy violates our national security. But are we going to change that? Should we change the philosophy to people's liking? I remember he gave a talk in Peter Maritzburg, and at the end he says, these Americans are very industrious, and they have given a talk as if it was industry. He says, you may like some of the things they have to say, and you may not like others. So accept what you like and reject what you don't like. Oh, thanks for just taking the potency out of my talk, right? So we have to be very clear exactly what we mean. Because a few letters different something, it means something different. The one person walked in the store, the Wholesome Foods, and there's a yogurt drink called a lassi, right? Correct? That's what it is, lassi? So he walked in and said, I want 3 lassis. And the people looked at him funny. He says, why did they look at me funny? He says, I asked for 3 yogurt drinks. I said, no, the yogurt drink is a lassi. You asked for 3 lassies. A lassie is a Scottish girl. So when you walked in and asked for 3 lassies, of course people are going to wonder, it isn't the same thing, is it? Right? Is it the same thing? No. Just a little change in letters changes everything. So we have to be clear in what it is that we want. Otherwise we won't get it. And that's why we're not ambiguous there. We try to be very clear on this. And we see that how he's saying the pleasing words, and he's expressing his realization of the absolute truth in order to benefit all who are present. That's going to be the highest benefit you can give. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that the devotees are have constantly thinking of me, and they've dedicated themselves to full devotional service, and they're enlightening one another and conversing about me. So of course you have to be dedicated to do that. But they derive great, I skipped that part in the middle, they derive great happiness and bliss enlightening one another and conversing about me. It's not just like, yeah, we passed on this dry knowledge. They have happiness and bliss. That's pretty good, both together. Happiness is like the contentment, and bliss is like that exhilarated feeling. It will get them both together. That's better than suffering and distress, isn't it? Like my father used to say, I can resist everything but temptation, and I can tolerate everything but pain and suffering. Does that make you a yogi? No. So we have to understand that if we enlighten one another about Krishna, and we're conversing about him, that we will do good for ourselves, and we will do good for others. And so this is the best thing that we can do. And we see that as Maharaj Prithu was pleased by this kinds of consciousness, we please others with it. You know, people are going to want what you have. You're going to present something. I remember the Calcutta, this one guy walked up. Usually I wouldn't say something like this, but maybe it was time he heard it. He says, you want to buy some morphine? I said, why, you take the morphine? He says, yes. I said, then I don't want it. He says, why? I said, because you don't look like you're doing very well. I don't want to end up like that. So sometimes they need to hear that what it is that got them there. You know, if I tell you I'm only 20 years old, you might say, what do you do? Well, I smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol every day. Oh, maybe I better not do that because I look older than 20, right? If I tell you I'm 100, then you might ask, oh, what did you do? You seem to be doing well for 100. I am doing well for 100, but I'm not 100. So people are going to want what we have if we have something good. They don't go down to the bum in the street and ask him how to handle business. They go to somebody who's successful, right? Who's the most successful person that was in business that was born in South Africa? Who? Elon Musk, is he pretty successful? He's worth about $250 billion. How many rand is that? That would be like 4 trillion rand. Is that a lot? Anybody here have 4 trillion rand? Do you know any 4 people together? Do you know any person that has 1 trillion rand? 1 million rand? 1,000 rand. You do have people with 1,000 rand, right? You better, it's not much. So you know about Elon Musk. Did he spend much time here? Some people think he's from another planet because he comes up with all these things that aren't human, but we won't delve into that. But the idea is here is because Maharaj Prithu is setting the example. We don't have like a parents will say, do as I say, don't do as I do. Is that the best way to train children? No. It's better to set an example. It's just like my godbrother Mukunda Datta was saying that with the Indian parents who are super strict on their children, when they go to America, they break every regulative principle. But the parents who aren't super strict, but they set an example for their children how to act, and they are happy, have happiness and bliss in their devotional service, people want what they have. They say in any sales that 80% of it's working on yourself. Because you say, I'm selling these products today, and I'm a miserable person, and I'm not very happy, but I have something that you'll really want. You think you kind of maybe sort of want this? Say, hey, I tried this, and it's really worked out well for me. You might want to give it a try. If it didn't work for you, and you don't appear to be happy, do people want to buy something from you? Don't they want what you have? If you appear like you look successful and you look happy and you look like you got it going on, aren't they going to be more inclined to get something from you? So did Maharaj Prithu look like he was happy and he was blissful? Or did he look like he had it going on? Yes? And he had the beautiful clothing, but his body was even in better shape. These are how the Kshatriyas are. They're tough and they're strong, Big, strong ones. We don't have so many Kshatriyas now, right? But they would move fast and talk heroic and fight with a sword. Anybody here can fight with a sword? Can you? They don't do much sword fighting now. They didn't fight with swords here, they used spears, right? But the spear, once you throw it, it's gone, right? Or do they poke people with them? How do they fight with a spear? Huh? I'm not quite sure. Now they use guns. Definitely don't take a spear to a gunfight. You may not even take a gun there because only certain people are authorized to shoot. The guy that shows up here with the gun, he's authorized to shoot people, because he's specially trained for that, and they only call him when there's a real danger. But he shows up ready to shoot. So we have to show up ready to perform devotional service. And we have to figure out what is beneficial. Would different things be beneficial for people at different times? Could that be true? If somebody's been a devotee for 50 years, let's say someone has been an avid meat eater, doesn't even eat vegetables, and they says, you know what, I've given up meat and fish, but I still eat eggs. Would you say that was good? Is it? It is good progress for them. But if somebody who'd been a devotee and vegetarian all their life and they said they started eating eggs, would that be good? So you might give different instruction to them. For some people, you give different instructions because it's a long road from the beginning of karma yoga to the end of bhakti yoga. So of course there's certain things you have to do for initiation and to live in a temple. But does that mean that if somebody doesn't follow all the things that are required for initiation or live in the temple, they're not allowed to visit on Sunday? Does it mean that? No. If someone smokes cigarettes, can they come here on a Sunday? If someone drinks alcohol, can they come here on a Sunday? Can they drink and smoke in the temple room? No. But if they do, we don't stop people from coming. We let them come. Maybe they can't do the artik while smoking a cigarette. That might look a little strange, right? Or rounds, imagine how hard that would be, Hare Krishna. That would be hard to do, right? But we encourage people from wherever they're at. Because, like Jayapataka Swami says in the Bhakti Vriksha programs, people want to know how much you care before they care how much you know. And if somebody's coming to the temple for the first time and they're super distraught, maybe you don't tell them the same things as to somebody who says they're having a little trouble chanting their rounds. Well, go to bed. Joyita Swami doesn't say, what time do you wake up? He says, what time do you go to bed? Because if you went to bed at 4 or 6 in the afternoon, you should be awake long before Mangal Artik. If you went to bed at midnight, it might be hard, right? So he asks, what time do you go to bed? So it's funny because one young woman I'd known in Laguna Beach, she came to the temple, and at the end of the feast when we're sitting to take prasadam, she says, sometimes I get lots of anxiety. What do you do to avoid anxiety? I said, well, when I chant Krishna's name on my beads, then I take shelter of Krishna. It doesn't cause, the anxiety doesn't come. She goes, can I do that? Can I buy some beads? So we got her a set of beads, and I showed her how to chant on that. And one brahmachari said, what did you tell her? And I said, what I told her about that you're chanting Hare Krishna, it'll help you to avoid the anxiety. He said, did you tell her if she doesn't follow all the regulative principles, it won't do any good? Isn't that what Prabhupada told people in the beginning? He said in the beginning he didn't introduce regulative principles. We just got people to chant. So when a child goes to the first grade, they don't do division, do they? They do 1 and 1 is 2, 2 and 2 is 4. But if they get to their last year of metric and they say divide 12 by 2, it says, oh, they didn't teach that in the first standard. Yes, but you've gone to the 12th standard. You're supposed to know it now, right? So it depends on where they're at. It's like the directions. You need to find out where I am so I can start from the right place. But if somebody's partway there, if somebody's calling from Phoenix, you don't tell them to get on the 405 freeway and drive to Los Angeles Airport, do you? Because from Phoenix to get to the place which was at Effingham, you just drive down the N2, don't you? Maybe you get on some other roads, but you wouldn't tell them to take the 405 freeway north to Los Angeles because they've already passed that part. So it depends on where someone's at. And a lot of it is when people see how much we care. Like if I tell someone's having some problem, look, I've been reading this Bhagavad Gita for almost 55 years, and I know what you need to do. You need to shut your mouth and open your ears. Or if I say, you know, I've been studying this Bhagavad Gita for a while, and it's helped me. Let's see if we can together find something that will help your problems. Which will be the best one? Second one or the first one? Even if the other one's true, it may not be delivered well. But if you know someone has your best interest at heart, if you see they care, then you'll listen to what they say. It's like if you trust me, I say, hit the ground right now. You know, and it turns out there's a big missile coming through and you hit the ground, it misses you, right? Or they're shooting bullets. You know, say, why are you telling me to do that? Why? If someone you trust says, hit the ground right now, you just do it, right? It's like in the military, they train them to do that. Get to hit the ground right now. And they train them that whatever they're told, they need to do it. Because if you don't hit the ground when those bullets are coming through, you're going to die, right? So you trust someone, they say, get on the ground right now. You don't start asking questions then, do you? You ask questions, it's too late. So once we find we trust someone, we don't ask those anymore. So we need to find people we trust, and we need to create trust ourselves in other people. And we need to get the full story, not just part of it. People get that in the internet. They get part of the story, and then they decide that some theory is true and something else is bad, and they don't have the whole story. So we have to get the absolute knowledge, and we have to share it with others so that it's understandable. It's like when we're talking, we'll give you some choices. If you're going to give a large talk to a crowd of mixed people, we have some Westerners who are new, some Africans, and some Indians. Should you gear this talk to long-time devotees? Should you gear the talk to average Hindus? Or should you give the talk, gear it to the Western mind? Which one? Nobody? Which one? No. Which one? Rukmini has the answer. What is it? Yes, because what you do with things like if it's the devotees or even long-time Hindus, you may assume they know certain things. And so if you leave those out, people won't get the whole story. And if you repeat it, even if those people know it, it isn't going to hurt them to hear it again. Krishna repeats certain concepts in the Bhagavad Gita. So we do better to assume people may not know all of it and explain the whole thing than keep pieces out. If somebody knows it well and I leave pieces out, you can know the rest, right? Right? Like if I tell you the part about Krishna says that you have a right to perform your duty. You know he says, but not to offer the result to me. But if people don't know and I just say, Krishna says you have the right to perform your duty. And Krishna says you can do what you want, but don't give the whole picture. Even to people who know it, it might be missing. So we're better to assume people don't know it all and that we should give them enough information so that it is understandable. Because sometimes to just give part of it, assuming people know it, may not be the best part. We have to assume that some people don't know it. And even though we're trying to talk to everybody, we have to make sure that we make it clear to all the people, especially the newer ones. Because if we review something twice for someone who already knows it, that's not a problem. But if we skip a part for someone that doesn't, that might be a problem. So we have to see how to make it understandable. Now, if Janananda Swami is in Paris, France, should he give the talk in French? Yes? But should you give the talk in French here? No, why not? Because they don't speak it or you don't? But if they don't speak it, you could come up with gibberish and you'd say, well, that was French. Right? It's like when the English say a curse word, you know what they say? Oh, pardon my French. But the curse word in English was in English, it's not French. But they say, pardon my French. Because if you don't know, anything could be French, right? But so we have to know what the audience is. And if we're going to assume that people know or don't know, it's better to give the complete picture. Like they say when someone's at court, you have to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you say, oh, Jai Sachinandan chased Kshudi out of the temple and he grabbed keys from him and took them away. Why did he do that? I said, well, because Kshudi took away Jai Sachinandan's keys and Jai Sachinandan chased them to get them back. So if you said that Jai Sachinandan chased me and took away keys, is that the truth? It is, isn't it? But it's not the whole truth. So we speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Because when we leave certain things out, things are missing. So any questions or comments on this? How about we lecture again on this on verse 21 on Friday? Because what are we doing tomorrow? What I'm not doing today? What is it? What's happening tomorrow? Thursday. What is tomorrow? It's Thursday? That's why I said at the beginning, I says, we're going to be giving a talk all about the disappearance of Bhaktisiddhanta and some of the main points of the life of Bhaktisiddhanta. But we're not doing it today, we're doing it tomorrow. So see, that's creating a doubt, because then people have to think, wait a minute, that's not supposed to be today. But then it gets people's attention, doesn't it? If they're going, wait a minute, is that today? And then they have to listen up to see what's really going on. And that's the idea. We want to make sure people are paying attention. That's like on, I gave a talk. It's funny because at the house program, I asked if people knew the difference between fixed asset allocations, between growth stocks, and between dividend stocks. And Srimad Krishna said, well, this first part started out to be a little technical and people didn't understand. But the point I was making is when we don't understand everything about something, is we're supposed to find someone that does. If you don't know all those things, you don't go invest on your own. You find someone that knows those and knows what your situation is. People invest in things because someone says they have a good investment. I'm selling cars. You know which is a good brand of cars? Whichever brand I'm selling, of course, isn't it? I was selling Chevrolets last week, but they're no good anymore. Fords are good now. Why is that? Well, because I'm selling Fords now. So the same thing with spiritually. Do you just grab concepts from people who tell you things? Or do you find somebody who knows the truth and learn it from them and then judge off what they say? So the same thing is true with all of those. You find someone who knows financially, someone who knows spiritually, and a doctor. You don't just get random advice from people you don't know on the internet. You go to a doctor who's been qualified in that field, and you go to your own lawyer. Or if I'm suing you, you save money and don't get your own lawyer, just use my lawyer, right? Does that sound good? It'd be very good, wouldn't it? For me, right? So you have to have someone who represents you. That's the first thing you do in any of these fields. And we found that someone, and that someone is Prabhupada. And he found someone. That someone is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who represents the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. But that will come tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Chastisements? None? All right. Oh, what about that? Oh, yes. But they're not in that Phoenix. Yeah, you better find out which Phoenix, right? I'm in Phoenix. How do I get there? They told me in Phoenix it gets to 50 degrees Celsius, but it's not hot because it's dry heat. Does that sound true? I think that works at 30 and 35, but not at 50, does it? Does it work at 50? All right.